The bass thundered through the crowded club, vibrating through my worn heels and into bones that felt too tired to hold me upright anymore. I shouldn't have come here. The 2-drink minimum had already eaten into my grocery budget, and the watered-down vodka tonic sweating in my hand was doing nothing to numb the ache that had taken up permanent residence in my chest. 3 months since the divorce, $60,000 in student loan debt, an apartment I could barely afford in a neighborhood where gunshots occasionally punctuated my sleep, and a $40,000 hole in my bank account, where my half of the house sale should have been. Money my ex-husband Ryan had stolen with the help of his banker friend and a convenient technical error. I was drowning slowly, and nobody was coming to save me. That's when I saw him across the room. Ryan, my ex-husband, his arm wrapped possessively around a woman in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was everything I wasn't anymore, polished, confident, laughing at something he said with her head thrown back like she didn't have a care in the world. The vodka turned to acid in my stomach. Ryan's gaze swept the room and landed on me. His expression shifted from surprise to something uglier, pity mixed with satisfaction. He'd won. He'd taken everything. And here I was, alone in a mediocre club, clutching a cheap drink like a lifeline. I needed to leave. Now. But my feet wouldn't move. My pride, battered as it was, wouldn't let me run. That's when I noticed the man standing near the bar, watching me with dark, unreadable eyes. He was different from everyone else in this place, perfectly still in the chaos, wearing a charcoal suit that whispered of wealth rather than screamed it. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that made the crowd unconsciously part around him. And he was looking at me like I was the only person in the room. Desperation makes you brave. Or stupid. Probably both. I crossed the distance between us before I could talk myself out of it, my pulse hammering in my throat. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes black as obsidian that tracked my approach with predatory focus. "I need a favor," I said, hating how breathless I sounded. "My ex-husband is here with his new girlfriend and I swallowed hard. Could you dance with me? Just to make him think I've moved on?" The stranger's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Dangerous, that's what he was. Every instinct I'd honed working in the ER, reading body language, assessing threats, screamed at me to walk away. "What's in it for me?" His voice was deep, slightly accented, with an edge that made my skin prickle. "I don't know," I admitted. "The satisfaction of a good deed?" He studied me for a long moment, and I became acutely aware of my cheap dress, my faded heels, the dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. "One dance," he finally said, extending his hand. Long fingers, calloused in places a businessman's shouldn't be. A heavy silver watch peeked from beneath his cuff. "And you'll owe me nothing. Consider it my pleasure to help a beautiful woman make a fool regret his choices." I placed my hand in his, and his fingers closed around mine with firm, warm certainty. He led me to the dance floor with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to getting exactly what he wanted. His hand settled at the small of my back, and even through the fabric of my dress, his touch felt electric, possessive. We moved together, and I felt Ryan's eyes boring into us from across the room. "He's watching," the stranger murmured against my ear, sending shivers cascading down my spine. "Your ex-husband looks terrified. Good. He should be." I pulled back slightly to look at him. "Why would he be terrified?" "Because he recognizes me." The stranger's smile turned predatory. "And he knows what I'm capable of." Before I could ask what that meant, Ryan appeared beside us, alcohol flushing his face red. "Ella, what the hell are you doing?" The stranger moved faster than I could track, positioning himself between me and Ryan with lethal grace. "The lady is dancing with me. I suggest you return to your date." Ryan's bravado crumbled as he truly looked at my dance partner for the first time. All color drained from his face. "Vega," he whispered, backing up a step. "I didn't know. I wasn't—" "Vega?" I repeated, confused. "Daniel Vega," the stranger said, his eyes never leaving Ryan's frightened face. "And you must be the ex-husband who stole $40,000 from this beautiful woman. We should talk about that. Soon." Ryan practically ran back to his girlfriend, nearly knocking over a table in his haste to escape. I stared at Daniel Vega, my heart hammering for entirely different reasons now. "Who are you? What just happened?" Daniel's hand found the small of my back again, drawing me close. "I'm someone who doesn't tolerate thieves. And what just happened is your ex-husband realized he made a very costly mistake." His thumb traced small circles against my spine, the gesture somehow both comforting and possessive. "Now," he said, his voice dropping to something intimate, dangerous. "I think we should continue this conversation somewhere more private. My car is outside." He studied my face carefully. "Unless you'd rather stay here with your regrets and watered-down vodka." Every rational thought told me to say no, to thank him for the dance and go home to my empty, safe apartment. But I looked into those dark, dangerous eyes and heard myself whisper, "Take me with you." His smile was pure sin. "As you wish, Ella." He knew my name. I'd never told him my name. Sunlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, pulling me from the deepest sleep I'd had in months. For a disoriented moment, I didn't recognize the Egyptian cotton sheets, the massive bed, or the stunning view of the waterfront stretching beyond the glass. Then memory crashed over me like a wave. Daniel Vega, the penthouse. His hands on my body, reverent and possessive. The way he'd whispered my name like a prayer against my skin. The hours we'd spent tangled together, him learning every curve, every sensitive spot, every sound I could make. Heat flooded my cheeks as I registered the empty space beside me, sheets already cool to the touch. He'd been gone for a while. I sat up, clutching the sheet to my chest, taking in the bedroom properly for the first time. Minimalist luxury, charcoal walls, modern art, furniture that probably cost more than my car. This was the home of someone with power, wealth, and impeccable taste. "Good morning." Daniel's voice came from the doorway, and I turned to find him leaning against the frame, already dressed in a three-piece suit that fit him like it had been painted on. His dark hair was slightly damp, and he held 2 cups of coffee. God, he was beautiful. Dangerous and perfect and way out of my league. "Morning," I managed, suddenly aware of my tangled hair, and the way I probably looked like I'd been thoroughly ravished. Because I had been. He crossed to me, offering one of the cups. "I had business early this morning, but I didn't want to wake you. You needed the rest." His eyes traveled over my face with concerning intensity, as if memorizing every detail. "How do you feel?" "Confused," I admitted, accepting the coffee. It was perfect. Exactly the right amount of cream. No sugar. "How did you know how I take my coffee?" A small smile played at his lips. "I pay attention, Ella." The way he said my name sent shivers down my spine, just like it had last night when he'd groaned it against my throat. "I need to get ready for work," I said, glancing at the clock on the nightstand. 7 a.m. My shift started at 8, and I still needed to go home and change into scrubs. "I should call a rideshare." "My driver will take you," Daniel interrupted smoothly. "And I had one of my people pick up your car from the club last night. It's in the garage downstairs." Of course he did, because Daniel Vega was the kind of man who anticipated needs before they were spoken. "Thank you," I said carefully. "For everything. Last night was—" I fumbled for words that wouldn't sound cheap. Unexpected. It was inevitable. He sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that I could smell his cologne, sandalwood, and something darker. "I knew it the moment you asked me to dance." His hand found mine, fingers threading through in a gesture that felt more intimate than it should. "Have dinner with me tonight, after your shift." It wasn't quite a question, but not quite a command either. Classic Daniel Vega. I was learning, making you feel like you had a choice while making it impossible to say no. "I don't even know you," I protested weakly. "Then let's change that." His thumb traced circles on my palm. "I want to know everything about you, Ella Martinez, and I want you to know me." The offer hung between us, weighted with promise and danger in equal measure. Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something flickered across his face. Satisfaction, maybe, or anticipation. "Business?" I asked. "Always." He pocketed the phone and stood, offering his hand to help me up. "But right now, you need to get to work. Come on, I'll show you where the bathroom is." Mercy General Hospital was chaos when I arrived, barely making it before my shift started. Nurses clustered in small groups, whispering urgently. Administrators rushed past with panicked expressions. Even the usually unflappable Maggie looked rattled as she grabbed my arm the moment I walked into the ER. "Have you heard?" she demanded, her eyes wide. "Heard what?" "The hospital. It's been sold. Overnight acquisition, they're calling it. Some big corporation bought us out, and nobody knows what it means for our jobs, our benefits, anything." My stomach dropped. Mercy General had been struggling financially for years, but I hadn't realized things were that bad. "Sold to who?" "Some company called Vega Enterprises." Maggie's voice dropped to a whisper. "Ella, isn't that the same last name as your guy? The one who bought us breakfast?" The coffee I'd drunk at Daniel's penthouse turned to lead in my stomach. "No, he wouldn't. He couldn't have." "Ms. Martinez?" A stern-looking woman in a business suit appeared beside us, clipboard in hand. "You're needed in the executive offices, immediately." "Why?" I asked, my voice coming out strangled. "The new owner has requested to see you personally." Maggie's hand tightened on my arm, her expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Ella, what's going on?" I shook my head, unable to form words. My legs felt disconnected from my body as I followed the woman through the hospital corridors, past familiar break rooms and supply closets, toward the administrative wing I'd rarely visited. The executive suite had been completely transformed overnight. Gone were the worn carpets and outdated furniture. In their place, sleek modern design, fresh paint, and behind a massive desk of dark wood and glass, sat Daniel Vega. He looked every inch the powerful businessman now, his expression unreadable as he dismissed the woman with a subtle nod. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving us alone. "Hello, Ella." His voice was calm, controlled. "I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of making some changes around here." I stared at him, my heart hammering against my ribs. "You bought my hospital." "I bought a struggling medical facility that was on the verge of bankruptcy, yes." He stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace. "I saw an opportunity." "You bought my hospital," I repeated, anger finally breaking through the shock. "The morning after we—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "What the hell is this, Daniel?" His eyes darkened. "This is me making sure you're safe, that you have job security, that you can focus on your work without worrying about layoffs or budget cuts. This is you inserting yourself into every aspect of my life." "Yes," he agreed simply, stopping just inches from me. Close enough that I could feel his heat, smell his cologne, remember exactly how those hands had felt on my bare skin hours ago. "Because I told you last night, Ella. I pay attention, and what I've learned is that you deserve so much more than you've been given." His hand rose to cup my cheek, and I hated how I leaned into the touch instinctively. "You can't just buy a hospital because we slept together," I whispered. "I can." His thumb traced my lower lip, and I did. "Now have dinner with me tonight. "We have much to discuss, Mrs. Martinez." "That's not a request, is it?" His smile was pure sin. "No, it's not." I should have walked out. Should have told Daniel Vega exactly where he could shove his hospital acquisition and his dinner demands. Instead, I stood frozen in his new office, torn between fury and the traitorous thrill running through my veins. "Sit," Daniel said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs. "Please." I sat, arms crossed defensively. "You had no right." I purchased a failing asset and turned it profitable. He slid a folder across the desk. "These are the changes being implemented immediately." Against my better judgment, I opened it. My eyes widened. Emergency department budget increased by 40%. New equipment ordered. Staff retention bonuses. And there, Maggie Reeves promoted to head of nursing with a salary that would finally reflect her 20 years of experience. "You promoted Maggie," I whispered. "She's the best nurse here. She deserved recognition." Daniel's dark eyes never left my face. "I also noticed your student loan payments have been burdensome. The hospital now offers loan forgiveness for nurses pursuing advanced degrees." My head snapped up. "You can't just—" "I can. I did." He stood, moving around the desk. "Every change benefits this hospital and its staff. The fact that it also benefits you specifically is simply good fortune." Good fortune or calculated manipulation? Something flickered in his eyes, hurt, vanishing quickly. "If I wanted to manipulate you, there are far more direct methods. This is me providing what you need while maintaining your independence. You'll still earn your paycheck through your own merit." He was close now, close enough that I had to tilt my head back. "I'm simply removing obstacles placed in your path by others." "By Ryan," I said. "By Ryan." His voice hardened. "Among others." "The world hasn't been kind to you, Ella. I intend to change that." Heat pooled low in my belly, my body remembering last night. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. His hand cupped my face, touch gentle despite the power radiating from him. "Dinner. Tonight and every night this week. Let me take you out properly. Let me show you what your life could look like. And if I say no, then I'll wait until you say yes." His smile was slight, knowing. "The hospital acquisition stands regardless. None of this is contingent on your agreement, Ella. I don't deal in coercion, just overwhelming gestures that make no impossible. I prefer to think of it as making yes irresistible." His thumb traced my jawline. 5 dinners. If after that you want nothing to do with me, I'll respect it. I'll remain a silent owner, and you'll never see me again. The escape clause convinced me. The promise he'd let me go, even though part of me knew I wouldn't want it. "Fine. 5 dinners. I hated how breathless I sounded. "But I have conditions." His eyes lit with delight. "Name them." "No more surprise acquisitions, no interfering without asking first, and no special treatment at work. I earn my place here or I walk." Daniel considered, then nodded. "Agreed. With one caveat, I reserve the right to protect you if you're in danger. Non-negotiable. I work in an ER. Danger comes with the territory. Not that kind of danger." His expression darkened. "My world has enemies. Being seen with me puts a target on your back. I need to know you're safe." The reminder of who he really was sent chills through me. "What exactly do you do, Daniel?" "The truth." He studied me, weighing how much honesty I could handle. "I operate in spaces between legal and illegal. I protect businesses that can't rely on traditional law enforcement. I ensure debts are paid, agreements honored. Sometimes that requires methods that wouldn't hold up in court. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who refuses to be constrained by laws written to protect the powerful." His hand dropped. "Does that frighten you?" It should have. I don't know yet, I admitted. Ask me after 5 dinners. His smile returned, sharp and satisfied. Then I'll pick you up at 7:30 tonight. My driver will be waiting in the parking garage. I turned to leave, desperate for air. Ella. His voice stopped me. Thank you for giving me a chance. I won't waste it. In the hallway, a man materialized from shadows, short, muscular, with a scar beneath his collar. Ms. Martinez. I'm Marco, Mr. Vega's head of security. He handed me a card with a phone number. If you ever feel threatened or notice anything unusual, call immediately, day or night. Unease crept through me. Is that necessary? Marco's expression didn't change. Mr. Vega doesn't do anything without purpose. He bought this hospital overnight. He's inserted himself into your life with surgical precision. He stepped back into shadow. You should be careful, Ms. Martinez. When Daniel Vega wants something, he gets it. Always. He paused. The question is, what happens when you become something he can't afford to lose? The hospital buzzed with rumors by noon. Everyone wanted to know about my connection to the mysterious new owner who'd appeared from nowhere with enough money to save Mercy General from bankruptcy. Maggie cornered me in the supply closet during my break. Spill. Now. There's nothing to spill, I lied, organizing IV bags I didn't need to organize. Bullshit. Daniel Vega promotes me out of nowhere, increases our budget, and specifically requests a meeting with you on his first day? She crossed her arms. I've known you for 5 years, Ella. Don't insult my intelligence. I sighed. I met him a few nights ago. We connected. I didn't know he was going to buy the hospital. Connected. Maggie's eyebrows shot up. Is that what we're calling it now? Heat flooded my cheeks. Can we not do this here? Fine, but we're having wine and a serious conversation soon. She squeezed my shoulder. Just be careful, honey. Men with that much power don't do anything without a reason. The same thing Marco had said. The same warning echoing in my head all morning. My shift blurred into the usual chaos. A cardiac arrest in Bay 3. A car accident victim in 2. An elderly woman with pneumonia who reminded me of my grandmother. I lost myself in the work, the one place where I still felt competent, in control. I didn't notice Daniel until I felt eyes on me. He stood in the observation deck above the ER, partially hidden by the tinted glass, but I recognized his silhouette instantly. Watching. Always watching. My hands didn't shake as I placed the IV line in my patient's arm, but awareness prickled across my skin like electricity. How long had he been there? The trauma alarm blared. Incoming GSW. Gunshot wound. 2 minutes out. I snapped into focus, the team mobilizing around me with practiced efficiency. When the paramedics burst through the doors, the patient was a kid, maybe 19, blood soaking through the pressure dressings on his abdomen. Multiple GSWs to the lower left quadrant, the paramedic reported. BP dropping, Tachi to 140. I moved on instinct, hands steady as we transferred him to the gurney. Get me 2 large bore IVs, type and cross for 6 units, and page surgery now. The next 20 minutes were controlled chaos, stopping the bleeding enough to get him stable for the OR, keeping him calm while his mother screamed in the hallway, doing what I did best, saving lives while the world fell apart around me. When the surgical team finally wheeled him away, I stripped off my bloody gloves and looked up. Daniel was gone from the observation deck. I found him waiting by my car in the parking garage after my shift, leaning against a sleek black Mercedes with the casual confidence of someone who owned everything around him, which, technically, he now did. That was impressive, he said as I approached. What you did in there, the way you commanded that room. Just doing my job. No. He pushed off the car, closing the distance between us. You were magnificent, competent, compassionate, fearless. That boy is alive because of you. Something in his voice, Raw admiration mixed with something darker, more possessive, made me stop. How long were you watching? Long enough. His hand rose to my face, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. Long enough to understand why you do this, why you sacrifice sleep and peace and financial security to save strangers. Daniel. My sister almost died when I was 14. The words came out rough, unexpected. Appendicitis that turned septic. We couldn't afford the hospital, so my mother waited. By the time we finally went, Victoria was dying. His jaw clenched, pain flickering across his features. A nurse like you saved her, worked a double shift, refused to leave until Victoria stabilized. She even paid part of our bill from her own pocket. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel his heat in the cool garage. My mother worked 3 jobs. We ate rice and beans for months to pay off the rest. And I swore that day I'd never be powerless like that again. That I'd build something so no one in my family would ever have to choose between life and bankruptcy. Understanding crashed over me. That's why you bought the hospital. That's why I bought this hospital. His thumb traced my lower lip. But I'd be lying if I said you weren't the real reason. Watching you today, seeing you save that boy without hesitation. His eyes darkened. You're extraordinary, Ella, and I'm not letting you go. The possessive declaration should have frightened me. Instead, heat pooled low in my belly. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He checked it, and his expression hardened instantly. What's wrong? I asked. Your ex-husband. Daniel's voice dropped to something dangerous. He's been asking questions. About me. About my business dealings. Ice slid down my spine. Ryan, why would he? Because he's stupid, scared, or both. Daniel pocketed his phone. This changes our dinner plans. I need to handle this before it becomes a problem. Handle it how? His smile held no warmth. You let me worry about that. Go home, Ella. Get some rest. I'll call you later. He kissed my forehead, gentle despite the threat radiating from him, then opened my car door. As I drove away, I watched him in the rearview mirror, phone pressed to his ear, his posture rigid with controlled fury. What had Ryan done? And what would Daniel do in response? Ryan showed up at the hospital 2 days later, drunk and furious. I was at the nurse's station, charting a patient's vitals when Maggie's hand clamped on my shoulder. Ella, your ex is in the lobby, and he's making a scene. My stomach dropped. What? Security's trying to escort him out, but he's demanding to see you, says it's urgent. Her expression was worried. He looks rough, honey, and he reeks of whiskey. I found Ryan in the main lobby, his expensive suit rumpled, his face flushed with alcohol and rage. 2 security guards flanked him, but he shook them off when he saw me. Ella. He stumbled forward. We need to talk. Now. Ryan, you can't be here. You need to leave. Leave? He laughed, the sound bitter and ugly. That's rich coming from you. Do you know what you've done? What your fucking boyfriend did to me? Ice slid through my veins. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play stupid. His voice rose, drawing stares from patients and staff. Daniel Vega, your new sugar daddy. He got me fired, Ella. Made some calls to my company about financial irregularities in my accounts. Now they're auditing everything and I'm out on my ass with no severance. My heart hammered. Daniel had done this, without asking, without warning. Ryan, I didn't... You didn't what? Didn't sick your mobster boyfriend on me? Didn't ruin my career? He moved closer, and I smelled the whiskey sharp on his breath. I lost everything because of you. My job, my reputation, my... You lost everything because you stole $40,000 from me, I said, anger finally overriding shock. Don't blame me for the consequences of your own actions. Ryan's face contorted with rage. He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in painfully. "You ungrateful—" He never finished the sentence. Daniel appeared from nowhere, moving with terrifying speed and grace. One moment Ryan was gripping my arm, the next he was stumbling backward. Daniel's hand wrapped around his wrist in a hold that made Ryan's face go white with pain. "Touch her again," Daniel said quietly, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "And you'll lose more than your job." Vega. Ryan's bravado crumbled instantly. "I didn't mean, you were just putting your hands on her without permission." Daniel released him with a slight push that sent Ryan stumbling. "In a hospital that I own, drunk, belligerent, harassing my staff." Two of Daniel's security men materialized beside him, Marco among them. "You stole $40,000 from her," Daniel continued, his tone conversational but laced with menace. "Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? That I'd let that slide?" Ryan's gaze darted between Daniel and me, fear replacing anger. "This is between me and my ex-wife. You have no right." "I have every right." Daniel stepped closer, and Ryan flinched. "She's under my protection now. That means what you did to her becomes my concern." He leaned in, whispering something in Ryan's ear that I couldn't hear. Whatever it was made all color drain from Ryan's face. Marco and the other guard escorted Ryan toward the exit, his protests dying in his throat. Daniel turned to me, his expression shifting from dangerous to concerned in an instant. "Are you hurt? Let me see your arm." I jerked away from his touch, fury finally breaking through shock. "What did you do?" "I made some inquiries into your ex-husband's business dealings. What I found was illuminating. His company agreed the information should be investigated. You got him fired. I ensured justice was served." His eyes hardened. "He stole from you, Ella. Did you expect me to do nothing?" "I expected you to ask me first." My voice rose, drawing attention from the remaining onlookers. "This is my life, Daniel. You can't just interfere whenever you feel like it." Something flickered in his expression. Hurt, frustration. "Come with me. Now." He took my hand, pulling me toward the elevator before I could protest. We rode to the executive floor in tense silence, the air between us crackling with anger and something more volatile. The moment his office door closed behind us, I rounded on him. "You had no right. I had every right." He stalked toward me, predatory and intense. "He hurt you. He stole from you. He put his hands on you today, and I won't tolerate that." "So you decided to destroy his career without consulting me?" "Yes." No apology, no regret. I protect what's mine, Ella, and whether you've accepted it yet or not, you're mine. The possessive declaration sent heat flooding through me despite my anger. "I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's." He kissed me. Hard, demanding, stealing the words from my mouth and the breath from my lungs. His hands cupped my face, angling my head to deepen the kiss until I was drowning in him. I should have pushed him away, should have held on to my anger. Instead, I grabbed his shirt and pulled him closer, kissing him back with desperate hunger. He groaned against my mouth, hands sliding to my waist, lifting me onto his desk in one fluid motion. Papers scattered as he stepped between my legs, his body pressing against mine with delicious pressure. "Say it," he murmured against my throat, his lips trailing fire along my skin. "Say you're mine." "Daniel." His hand slid up my thigh, and coherent thought became impossible. We didn't make it off his desk for another 20 minutes. Afterward, as I straightened my scrubs and tried to regain some semblance of professionalism, Daniel watched me with dark, satisfied eyes. His hair was messed from my fingers, his shirt untucked, and I'd left marks on his neck that his collar wouldn't quite hide. "This doesn't mean I forgive you for the Ryan thing," I said. even as my body still hummed with the aftershocks of what we'd just done. I know. He pulled me close, pressing a kiss to my forehead. But you understand why I did it now, don't you? I did. God help me. I did. In Daniel's world, justice was swift and absolute. Ryan had stolen from me, and Daniel had made him pay. Just ask me next time, I whispered. Please. His arms tightened around me. I'll try, but I can't promise I won't act if I think you're in danger. It was the most honest answer he could give. Over the next 2 weeks, the lines between professional and personal blurred completely. Daniel started appearing at my apartment after my night shifts, always with food, Thai takeout, Italian from the expensive place downtown, homemade empanadas that his chef had prepared. He'd insist I eat while he sat across from me, asking about my day, listening with genuine interest as I described difficult patients or small victories. He learned my coffee order, my favorite flowers, the way I bit my lip when stressed. He memorized my schedule better than I knew it myself, texting me reminders about appointments I'd forgotten. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like being seen. One night, after a particularly brutal shift where I'd lost a patient despite everything we'd tried, I found Daniel waiting in the parking garage at 3 a.m. He didn't ask questions, just opened his arms, and I walked into them, letting him hold me while I cried against his chest. He drove me home in silence, helped me into bed, and stayed until dawn, his hand stroking my hair while I finally slept. When I woke, he was gone. But there was coffee on my nightstand and a note. You save lives. Sometimes you can't save them all. That doesn't make you any less extraordinary. D. I kept that note in my wallet. 2 weeks after Ryan's hospital scene, Daniel picked me up after an evening shift in his car instead of sending his driver. We drove along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting off the dark water. My mother died 3 years ago, he said suddenly, his voice quiet. Heart attack. By the time I got her to the hospital, it was too late. I reached for his hand, threading our fingers together. I had all the money in the world by then. The best doctors, the best facilities. None of it mattered. His jaw clenched. She worked herself to death so Victoria and I could have better lives. And I couldn't save her. Daniel, I'm not a good man, Ella. He pulled over, turning to face me. I've hurt people. I've done things that would horrify you. I operate in darkness, and sometimes that darkness touches everything around me. His hand cupped my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. But I'm good to the people I love. I protect them. I provide for them. I would burn the world down before I let anything hurt them. The word love hung between us, too soon, and yet perfectly timed. Are you saying you love me? I whispered. His eyes darkened. I'm saying I'm falling, fast and hard, and it terrifies me because caring about someone makes you vulnerable, makes them a target. Daniel, but I can't stop. His forehead pressed against mine. I don't want to stop. My phone buzzed in my purse, shattering the moment. I almost ignored it, but the insistent vibration continued. Unknown number. I opened the message, and ice flooded my veins. You don't know who you're sleeping with. Daniel Vega is dangerous. He's destroyed families, ruined lives. You're just another toy to him. Run while you still can. Daniel's expression hardened as he read over my shoulder. Let me see that. I handed him the phone, watching as fury transformed his features into something cold and lethal. Who sent this? I asked. Someone who just made a very serious mistake. He pulled out his own phone, typing rapidly. Marco, I need a trace on this number. Now. He turned to me, his expression softening slightly. Did this message frighten you? I considered lying, then decided he deserved honesty. A little. Should it? Everything they said about me is probably true, Ella. I am dangerous. I have destroyed families who crossed me. I've ruined lives that needed ruining. His hand found mine again. But you're not a toy. You're... He stopped, searching for words. You're everything. My phone buzzed again. Ask him about the Moretti family. Ask him what he did to them. Who are the Morettis? I asked, watching Daniel's face carefully. His expression went completely blank. A mask I'd learned meant he was calculating how much truth to reveal. A family that tried to move into my territory 5 years ago. They were trafficking women and children through the port. My stomach turned. And what did you do? I stopped them. His voice was flat, emotionless. Completely. The father is serving life in federal prison. His sons scattered to different states. Their business empire was dismantled piece by piece until nothing remained. You destroyed them. I ended their ability to harm innocent people. Yes. He met my eyes, unflinching. Would you have preferred I let them continue? I didn't have an answer for that. The messages continued over the next 3 days. Photos of Daniel meeting with known criminals. Details about violent incidents linked to his organization. Each one designed to erode my trust, to make me see the monster instead of the man. Daniel assigned me round-the-clock security. Marco became my shadow, following me from my apartment to the hospital and back again. Another guard stationed himself outside my building at night. I felt suffocated. This is insane, I told Daniel when he appeared at my apartment after my shift. I can't live like this. I can't have armed men following me to the grocery store. Someone is targeting you to get to me. His voice was tight, with barely controlled frustration. Until we identify who, the security stays. You mean until you identify who? I don't get a say in this? Not when it comes to your safety. He stalked toward me, tension radiating from every line of his body. Do you understand what these messages mean, Ella? Someone knows about us. Someone wants to use you against me. And in my world, that means you're in real danger. Then maybe I shouldn't be in your world. The words hung between us, sharp and cutting. Daniel's face went pale. Is that what you want? To walk away? I want a choice. My voice broke. I want to feel like I have some control over my own life. But you've taken over everything. My hospital, my schedule, now my personal security. Where does it end, Daniel? It ends when you're safe. He grabbed my shoulders. Not hard, but desperate. I can't lose you. I can't. His voice cracked. I've lost too many people I care about. My father to violence. My mother to exhaustion. I won't lose you too. The raw vulnerability in his voice shattered my anger. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered. But you have to trust me to make my own decisions, even if they're not the safest ones. I don't know if I can do that. Then we have a problem. Before he could respond, his phone rang. He answered it, his expression darkening with each passing second. When? A pause. How long ago? Another pause. I'm on my way. He turned to me, and something in his eyes made my blood run cold. Someone tried to access your apartment building's security system an hour ago. They were unsuccessful, but they know where I live. You're staying with me tonight. Pack a bag. Daniel, this is not negotiable. His voice was steel. Pack. Now. I stayed at Daniel's penthouse that night, then the next, then the one after that. My small apartment sat empty while I lived in his luxurious cage, protected by guards and security systems that monitored every entrance. On the third night, Daniel worked late in his home office. I wandered the penthouse, restless and anxious, feeling the walls close in. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Does he know about your night shifts next week? The ones where you'll be alone at the hospital until 3 a.m.? I'll be waiting. My hands shook as I showed Daniel the message. His face transformed into something terrifying. cold fury mixed with lethal calculation. Within minutes, his office filled with men. Marco, plus 3 others I didn't recognize. They spoke in rapid, clipped sentences, planning strategies I didn't understand. "Ella needs to take a leave of absence from the hospital," one of them said. "It's not safe." "No." My voice cut through their planning. "I'm not abandoning my patients because someone is trying to scare me." Daniel's jaw clenched. "Ella." "No," I repeated. "I won't let whoever this is control my life. Increase security at the hospital if you want, but I'm not hiding." The room fell silent. Daniel's men looked at him, waiting for orders. "Double the security detail," Daniel finally said, his voice tight. "And I want surveillance on every entrance to that hospital. If anyone so much as looks at her wrong, I want to know about it." Marco nodded and left with the others, leaving Daniel and me alone. "You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met," he said, "and you're the most controlling man I've ever met." I crossed to him. "But I'm not running. Not from this threat, and not from you." His arms wrapped around me, holding me like I was something precious and breakable. "If anything happened to you, it won't." But that night, as I lay in his arms, my phone buzzed one final time. "Tomorrow night, 3 a.m., the parking garage. Come alone or people will die." I stared at the message, my heart hammering, and made a decision that would change everything. I didn't tell Daniel. My night shift crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every minute brought me closer to 3 a.m., closer to the parking garage, closer to whatever waited for me there. Daniel had texted twice, asking how my shift was going. I'd responded normally, hating myself for the deception. But if I told him about the threat, he'd stop me. And the message had been clear: come alone or people die. I couldn't risk innocent lives, not even for my own safety. At 2:45 a.m., I told Maggie I was heading home. She waved distractedly, buried in paperwork. The ER was quiet for once, just 2 patients sleeping in observation. Marco was positioned outside the main entrance, as always. But the parking garage had a side entrance, one the security detail didn't cover as closely. I slipped through it, my heart hammering against my ribs. The garage was eerily silent. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows between the cars. My footsteps echoed off concrete as I moved deeper into the structure, searching for whoever had summoned me. "Ella Martinez." A man's voice came from behind a support column. "You actually came. I wasn't sure you'd be that stupid." He stepped into the light. Mid-40s, expensive suit, cold eyes. 2 men flanked him, both carrying weapons they didn't bother to conceal. "Who are you?" My voice shook despite my effort to sound brave. "Someone with a message for Daniel Vega." He smiled, but it held no warmth. "See, your boyfriend has been very aggressive lately, taking territory that doesn't belong to him, interfering with business arrangements that have stood for years." "I don't know anything about Daniel's business." "Of course you don't. You're just a nurse, sweet, innocent, completely out of your depth." He moved closer, and I forced myself not to retreat. "But you're important to him, and that makes you valuable to us." Terror clawed up my throat. "What do you want?" "Tell Vega to back off the waterfront shipments. Tell him to stop bleeding money from our operations. Or next time we won't just send threatening messages." One of his men raised a phone, showing me photos on the screen. Photos of me leaving my apartment, entering the hospital, walking with Maggie to lunch last week. "We can get to you any time," the man continued. "The security detail he assigned is impressive, but not perfect. There are always gaps." "I'll tell him," I whispered. "Good girl." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear in a mockery of Daniel's gentle gesture. "One more thing." He never finished the sentence. Daniel appeared from the shadows like an avenging angel, moving with terrifying speed. One moment the man was touching me. The next, he was slammed against a concrete pillar, Daniel's forearm across his throat. "You touched her." Daniel's voice was barely recognizable, cold, lethal, empty of everything human. "You threatened her. You put your hands on what's mine." The man's guards reached for their weapons, but Daniel's security team materialized from every direction. Marco. 4 others, all armed, all utterly calm as they disarmed and restrained the guards with professional efficiency. "Daniel," I started. "Not now." He didn't even look at me, his attention fixed on the man struggling against his hold. "Who sent you? Was it Konstantin? The Bratva?" "Go to hell," the man gasped. Daniel's grip tightened. Wrong answer. What happened next was brutal and efficient. Daniel didn't torture, didn't draw it out. He simply applied pressure to specific points until the man was gasping out names, locations, details about operations I didn't understand. When he was done, Daniel released him, letting him crumple to the ground. He turned to Marco. "You know what to do. I want them gone by morning. Not dead, relocated. Make sure they understand what happens if they ever come near her again." Marco nodded, and his team dragged the 3 men away. Only then did Daniel turn to me, and the cold fury in his eyes made me step back. "You came here alone." His voice shook with barely controlled rage. "After receiving a direct threat, you came here alone and didn't tell me. They said people would die. So you risked yourself instead?" He moved closer, and I saw his hands were shaking. Not with fear, with fury. "Do you have any idea what could have happened? What they would have done to you to hurt me? I couldn't let innocent people. There were no innocent people." His shout echoed off concrete. "It was a trap, Ella. A simple trap to separate you from protection, and you walked right into it." Tears burned my eyes. "I was trying to help. You were trying to save me the pain of making hard choices." His voice broke. "But don't you understand? Losing you would destroy me. Completely. I would burn this entire city to ashes if something happened to you." He pulled me against his chest, his arms trembling as they wrapped around me. "I can't lose you. I can't. I'm sorry," I whispered against his shirt. "I'm so sorry." We stood there in the cold parking garage, holding each other while his security team cleaned up the mess I'd made of trying to protect him. "This is my world, Ella," Daniel said finally, his voice rough. "Violence, threats, hard choices. If you're going to be with me, you need to trust me to handle it, even when it's ugly." I pulled back to look at him. His knuckles were scraped, probably from the initial takedown. His eyes were haunted, showing me glimpses of the man who'd built an empire through ruthless necessity. "I do trust you," I said. "That's what terrifies me, and why I love you anyway." The words hung between us, raw and honest. Daniel's expression cracked, vulnerability flooding through. "Say that again." "I love you." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "Even knowing what you are, what you do. I love you, Daniel." He kissed me then, desperate and claiming, pouring everything he couldn't say into the press of his lips against mine. "I love you too," he whispered against my mouth. "God help us both. But I love you too." Life found a new rhythm after the parking garage incident. Daniel's rivals, the ones who'd threatened me, disappeared from the city. Not killed, Daniel assured me, but persuaded to relocate their operations elsewhere. I didn't ask for details. Some things were better left in the darkness. I moved into Daniel's penthouse officially. My shabby apartment lease terminated. My possessions looked almost comical in his luxurious space. My secondhand books on his designer shelves, my worn nursing bag by his imported Italian furniture. But Daniel treated every item I brought like treasure, giving my things pride of place, as if integrating my life into his was the most natural thing in the world. 2 weeks after the garage confrontation, I was reviewing charts at the nurse's station when the receptionist paged me. "Ms. Martinez, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent." My stomach dropped. "Who?" "Ryan Martinez, your ex-husband." Daniel's security immediately went on alert. Marco materialized at my side, hand hovering near his concealed weapon. "Should I remove him?" "No." Curiosity overrode caution. "I want to hear what he has to say." Ryan waited in a private consultation room, looking nothing like the drunk, belligerent man who'd grabbed me weeks ago. He was sober, pale, clutching a briefcase like a lifeline. "Ella." He stood when I entered, Marco positioning himself by the door. "Thank you for seeing me." "You have 5 minutes." He set the briefcase on the table, opening it to reveal neat stacks of cash. $40,000, everything I took from the house sale, plus interest. I stared at the money, then at him. "Why?" "Because Daniel Vega made it very clear what would happen if I didn't." Ryan's hands shook as he pulled out a legal document. "I need you to sign this. It states that the debt is paid in full, and you have no further claims against me." Of course, Daniel had orchestrated this, probably with the same ruthless efficiency he'd applied to everything else. "What did he threaten you with?" I asked. Ryan's face went gray. He didn't threaten. He explained, very calmly, very thoroughly. What happens to people who steal from those under his protection? He pushed the document toward me. "Please, Ella, just sign it. I'm trying to move on with my life." I scanned the document, straightforward, legal, properly notarized. At the bottom, a line for my signature, and beside it, a line for a witness. The door opened. Daniel entered, immaculate in a dark suit, his presence filling the small room. "Mr. Martinez." His voice was cordial, but ice ran beneath it. "I hope you brought everything we discussed." "Every penny, with interest, just like you said." Ryan couldn't meet Daniel's eyes. Daniel picked up the document, reading it carefully before producing a pen. He signed as witness, then slid it to me. "Your choice, Ella," he said softly. "Always your choice." I took the pen and signed. Not for Ryan's sake, not even for the money, but because it was time to close this chapter completely. Ryan grabbed the signed document like it was a lifeline, backing toward the door. "We're done now, right? This settles everything?" "It settles the debt," Daniel said. "But if you ever contact Ella again for any reason, if you so much as look in her direction on the street, the arrangement changes. Understood?" Ryan nodded frantically and fled. In the silence that followed, I stared at the briefcase full of cash. My nurse practitioner tuition, financial security, freedom from the burden that had weighed on me for months. "You didn't have to do that," I said quietly. Daniel's hand found the small of my back. "Yes, I did. He stole from you. That required correction." "And the hospital?" His expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering through. "Come with me. There's something I need to show you." He led me to the executive offices, to a conference room where several people in business attire waited. Lawyers, I assumed, and hospital administrators. "Effective immediately," Daniel announced. "Mercy General is being transferred to a nonprofit trust. Ms. Martinez will serve as one of the board directors, along with Ms. Reeves and Dr. Chen." I stared at him, shocked. "What?" "I bought the hospital to keep you safe," he said, his eyes holding mine. "But I won't use it to control you. This way, you'll have a voice in its operations without any conflict of interest regarding our relationship." The lawyers produced documents, explaining the trust structure, the board responsibilities, the financial endowment Daniel was providing to ensure the hospital's stability. It was everything I'd wanted. Security for my workplace, a say in its future, without the uncomfortable dynamic of dating my boss. "Why?" I whispered after the meeting ended, and we were alone. Daniel cupped my face, his touch infinitely gentle. because you need your independence, your own identity. And I love you enough to make sure you have it, even if it means giving up control. My throat tightened with emotion. I love you too. He smiled, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. There's one more thing I need to ask you, he said softly. Not here, Daniel said, closing the box before I could see what was inside. Not in an office. You deserve better than that. My heart hammered as he took my hand, leading me from the hospital to his waiting car. Where are we going? His smile was secretive. You'll see. The club. He took me back to the club where we'd first met, but it was transformed. Empty of the usual crowd, the lights were softer now, romantic rather than harsh. White flowers adorned every surface, and the same song that had played during our first dance drifted through the speakers. Daniel, I breathed, taking it all in. You asked me to dance to make your ex-husband jealous, he said, leading me to the center of the floor. I danced with you and fell in love. His arms wrapped around me, and we moved together just like that first night. But everything was different now. No pretense, no games. Just two people who'd found each other in the darkness and refused to let go. That night I was drowning, I whispered against his chest. Broken and hollow and convinced I'd never be whole again. That night I was alone, he replied. Surrounded by power and wealth, but empty. And then you asked me to dance, and suddenly I could breathe again. He pulled back, and this time when he opened the velvet box, I saw it. An emerald surrounded by diamonds, stunning and perfect. Marry me, Ella. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. Let me protect you, cherish you, and stand beside you for the rest of my life. Be my partner in everything, my conscience, my light in the darkness. Tears streamed down my face as I nodded. Yes. God, yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, then kissed me with a tenderness that made my knees weak. The kiss deepened, becoming something more, a promise of forever sealed between us. I love you, he murmured against my lips. My Ella, my everything. I love you too, I whispered back. My dangerous, impossible perfect man. We danced until dawn, just the two of us, in the place where our story began. 6 months later. The wedding was small, intimate, just Daniel's sister Victoria, Maggie, a handful of close friends, and Daniel's most trusted people. We married at his estate overlooking the water, the same view that had captivated me that first night. I wore emerald, of course, our color, our beginning. As Daniel slid the wedding band onto my finger, his eyes held mine with an intensity that still made my breath catch. With this ring, I thee wed, my love, my wife, my Ella. My husband, I whispered back, the word feeling right on my tongue. My Daniel. The reception was elegant, but warm, filled with laughter and music. Victoria pulled me aside at one point, tears in her eyes. Thank you, she said softly, for seeing past the monster everyone thinks he is, for loving my brother the way he deserves. He's not a monster, I replied. He's just a man who protects the people he loves fiercely. That's what makes you perfect for him. She hugged me tight. Welcome to the family, Hermana. Ryan had moved to another state, I'd heard. Started over somewhere far from Daniel's influence. The hospital thrived under its nonprofit structure, serving the community better than it had in decades. I'd completed my nurse practitioner degree, graduating top of my class. Daniel had been in the audience, pride radiating from him as I crossed the stage. My student loans, forgiven through the hospital's program, just as Daniel had promised. Everything had changed since that desperate night when I'd asked a dangerous stranger to dance. Now, as we slow danced at our wedding reception, Daniel's arms around me and our future stretched before us, bright and infinite. I couldn't regret a single choice that had led me here. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, his lips brushing my temple. That night at the club. How desperate I was. How broken. His arms tightened. And now? Now I'm whole. I pulled back to look at him. "You didn't fix me, Daniel, but you gave me space to fix myself. You saw worth in me when I couldn't see it, and you loved me enough to let me be strong." "You were always strong," he corrected gently. "I just made sure the world recognized it." As the song ended, he dipped me dramatically and I laughed. Genuine, joyful, free. "So, Mrs. Vega," he murmured, pulling me upright. "Shall we dance?" I looked at my husband, dangerous, powerful, impossibly devoted, and smiled. "Forever, Mr. Vega, forever." He kissed me as our guests applauded, sealing the promise we'd made to each other. A promise that had started with a desperate request in a crowded club and ended with a love that would last a lifetime. "Best revenge plan ever," I whispered against his lips. Daniel laughed, the sound warm and genuine. I prefer to call it destiny. And as we danced beneath the stars, I knew he was right. This was always meant to be our story.